New episodes of the I Know You Didn't Ask podcast are out every Monday and Friday, available wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Welcome to I Know You Didn't Ask. I'm your host, Megan O'Donnell, and today is the part 2 of our Anna Delvey deep dive. If you guys didn't listen to part 1, then you have to go back and listen to that to understand what the hell I'm going to be talking about on this episode. So in part 1, we talked about who Anna Delvey is, who Anna Delvey says she is, some of her scams, her friends, and, we're kind of laying the groundwork. And so, part 2, we are picking up right where we left off, which leads us to the infamous Marrakesh, Morocco trip. So, Anna randomly comes up with a half baked plan that she wants to take some friends to a beautiful trip to Marrakesh, Morocco. And they will be filming a documentary there all about the creation of ADF, Anna's fake social club where, rich people hobnob and be fancy. It doesn't make sense why she would need to take a trip with her friends to Morocco to document their creation of a social club that's in New York, but that's besides the point. Logic doesn't really exist when we're talking about Anna Delvey. I forgot to mention, if you are here and would prefer to watch my beautiful face talk about Anna Delvey, head over to YouTube and check out I Know You Didn't Ask Pod, where you can see all episodes of I Know You Didn't Ask moving forward in the video version. I'm really cute. I'm wearing a nice little pink and white striped shirt. I have curled my hair, so I really care about this episode because I really put in the work. Like Kim Kardashian, I'm just doing the work. And things are good over here, so head over to YouTube if you're interested. Moving on. So Anna decides to tell the group that they're going to be staying in a 5-star hotel called La Mamounia, which is an absolutely stunning high-end Moroccan hotel. They will be staying in a riad, which is basically a little house with your own butler and private pool on the property of this 5-star hotel. This will run you about $7,500 per night. So Anna, is treating her friends to this hotel as well as the airfare. The gang is excited, but they start getting a little suspect about the trip when it is literally the morning of the trip that they're supposed to be leaving for Morocco, and Anna has still yet to purchase the tickets. So, let's be real. Anybody who's traveled in the last few years know how expensive it is to fly. So imagine buying 4 tickets to Morocco the morning that you're supposed to leave. You got to assume it's a little bit more than, market price. So let's get into who was invited and who ultimately ended up going on this trip. So, of course, her friend Rachel was there. Again, if you haven't listened to part 1, then you don't know who the hell I'm talking about. So go back to part 1 if you need to, even just be refreshed a little bit about who's who in this story. So her friend Rachel was there. She's the Vanity Fair editor. Then there was Casey, her personal friend slash trainer slash hired friend. And then there was her friend Neff, who was, of course, the concierge at the 11 Howard Hotel, but was also a film major. So she was actually going to come on the trip as the videographer, but ultimately ended up feeling weird about the entire thing and decided to not go. It seems like Neff and Anna's relationship was a little bit on the rocks. As I mentioned in part 1, you could kind of tell that the lines were getting blurred within their friendship as Neff was needing to create more boundaries with Anna, because Anna's behavior in regards to not paying for her hotel stay was starting to ring some alarm bells for Neff in terms of, who this person is and are they really who they say they are, or are they full of shit? She was full of shit. There was also another moment where Neff went onto Twitter and tweeted something along the lines of, "I'm going to Morocco to shoot a film. 2 years ago, I was a manager at Starbucks, and you can't tell me God is not real." Of course, Anna wasn't thrilled about that because, she likes to keep her life private. Naturally, she didn't even say anything about Anna, but I guess that tweet was seen by somebody who then reached out to Neff, again on Twitter so everybody could see it, asking if there were any PA positions. And Neff ended up responding saying, "All PA positions have been filled, but let me ask." And at this point, Neff hasn't even agreed to fully go, but she's still kind of bragging about this trip and this film that she's going to be working on. And so this pissed off Anna, and she was obviously, upset. And Anna basically told her, "I'm sorry, this is a closed set, so we can't really be talking about this project," which is absolutely hilarious because nobody knows who you are, Anna. And Neff isn't even going. So this whole thing is just, again, bullshit. So one other little issue that Neff was having with Anna was that Neff doesn't have camera equipment to shoot this documentary. And anybody who's in the production industry knows that cameras are incredibly expensive. It's not, the camera you can go get at any regular store. You need a high-end 4K camera to really shoot something that could be possibly used for a documentary. But as we know, Anna's broke as a joke and has no money, so we all know that's not going to happen. So ultimately, Neff decides to no longer go on this trip with the girls, and Rachel actually ends up inviting another colleague of hers named Jesse, who was a videographer who had his own gear, who would be able to shoot the documentary for them. So Rachel was a little bit weary in general when it came to introducing her work and professional context to Anna. And she kind of said she subconsciously felt like she didn't like who she was with Anna. She became a little bit closer to being like Anna, which was a little bit, indignant. And she was always late and ultimately drank too much when she was hanging out with Anna. So she ends up agreeing to invite her friend Jessie, who, again, takes this as a job. So we'll kind of get to the professional aspects of this later in the episode. So around this time, it's May. They're supposed to be leaving, but for some reason, Anna is dragging her feet on booking the flights. They're supposed to be leaving that afternoon. So she ultimately ends up asking Rachel to book them. She sends her some photos of her credit card as well as her passport and says, hey, you book the tickets with my card, whatever, I'm busy. So Rachel's like, no worries. Rachel obviously ends up trying to book the tickets with her card, but surprise, surprise, her card gets declined. So she, of course, tells Anna. Anna's like, oh, let me call the bank, da. Long story short, Rachel ends up buying the tickets for everybody. Anna says, no worries, babe. I'll pay you back later. And that's strike one on this trip. And there's going to actually be too many strikes, so we really shouldn't even be counting them, honestly, at this point. So Anna also sends Rachel her passport, where we see her last name is Sorokin Delvey on her passport. She also asks Rachel to only use Sorokin as her last name on her ticket. Another weird thing was that the billing address for her card was 11 Howard, the hotel that she's squatting in, which actually leads us to right before they're supposed to go to the airport. The tickets are secured. Rachel put them on her card. NBD, no problem. The problem is that 11 Howard refused to let Anna keep her belongings in her hotel room, naturally because she's not paying on time, refusing to put her card down, and because it's not her house. It's a hotel. Like, this is not happening. They could be flipping this room to other paying clients. And so ultimately they needed to pack up all of Anna's stuff right before she was leaving for this big trip to Morocco and bring all of her items to the Mercer Hotel on their way to the airport, where she was able to get another hotel room, and God knows if she paid for that or not. But that's kind of all we know about that situation. So another thing that would kind of make me start wondering about my friend, if this girl is so freaking rich, the fact that she only has enough shit to put in a hotel room that she could easily take in an Uber to the Mercer Hotel is kind of bizarre. And second, why does she not have a stable home? And why is her billing address 11 Howard Hotel? Like, it's just all not making any sense. And let's keep going. Anna, Casey, Rachel, and Jesse all get to the airport. Again, Jesse is thinking this is a work event, so he has a lot of equipment which needs to be checked, which you have to pay for. And in any type of production project, as I know, production is required to pay for travel expenses for everybody, as well as any of their gear transportation. That's just standard. That's just industry standard. Anna's credit card obviously didn't work at the gate, so Jesse immediately looked to Rachel, who got him this quote-unquote gig, and Rachel ended up having to pay for the transportation costs for his equipment. So the gang flies to Morocco, and that's where the theoretical fun begins. So they all arrive at the hotel. As I mentioned, they're staying in a Riyadh, a gorgeous multi-bedroom private home on the property of this 5-star resort. There is a personal butler there. They have a private pool. There are 4 restaurants on site. It's truly a dream. The La Mamunia website is just making me drool. I want to go there so badly. The first night, they have dinner at the hotel, and the group, ends up having fun, is drinking, partying, and I guess they all wanted to go in the little pool, and Anna and Jesse were hanging out in the pool, and Rachel refused to go into the pool, and then Anna and Jesse, I guess, were taunting her, and Anna ended up running around the house following her, trying to drag her into the pool, where she pinned her down by her wrists on the floor and basically was forcing her to put her bathing suit on and come into the pool. She ultimately agreed to go into the pool just to placate them. And then later that night, she texted Jesse basically saying, hey, I really felt bullied by you, and like you're not going to team up with Anna on me moving forward. And I understand, feeling uncomfortable if your friend is literally pinning you down and forcing you to do something. You're all consenting adults. If she doesn't want to go in the pool, she doesn't have to fucking go in the pool. But again, it's Anna's way or the highway. So they went to the beautiful Moroccan markets. They, of course, go shopping, and Anna picks out a gorgeous rug that she's going to purchase as well as have shipped back to New York. I guess for her hotel rooms, she's going to really decorate those hotel rooms with her new Moroccan swag. Naturally, her card doesn't work, and Rachel ends up picking up the bill for that. You guys are seeing where this is going, right? No money. No money to speak of. They end up going to Richard Branson's 5-star resort, which ended up being another lunch that Rachel needed to pay for. The vibe was very off in this group, and it was starting to percolate amongst them. Casey actually ended up getting sick early in the trip and really wasn't able to participate in any of the fun, quote unquote, and ended up leaving early and, kind of got out of Dodge, which who knows if she was really feeling sick or if she just was like, this all is bullshit and it's starting to crumble in front of me and I don't want to be implicated in this nonsense. Casey had the right mindset about all of this. They're mainly staying at the hotel, which was also a pain point for Rachel because she's like, we flew across the fucking world. Why are we not leaving this property? And Anna's like, well, we have everything we need here. Why would we ever leave? Similar to her relationship with Eleven Howard and Lake Cuckoo, it was the same thing. If she left the La Mamunya property, it means she'd have to put things on a card, which again, we have found out time and time and time again, her cards don't work. So ultimately, she was able to kind of convince the gang to mainly hang out at the hotel. But while they're hanging out, they notice that on 2 different occasions, people have gone up to Anna and said, hey, I'm going to need you to put your card down. We need a card on file. We need a card on file. And Anna is very much detached, is not taking them seriously, and is not giving them the card. Supposedly, a third person even asks for clarity as to what the hell is going on and why they just won't put a card down. And Jesse, the videographer, actually mentions that he heard that somebody lost their job for not getting a secured payment for the riad. Mind you, this riad is $7,500 a night, so someone's head is on the chopping block if this can't be paid out. It's just beginning, people. That's the kind of scary part about this. So at a certain point, tensions are really high. The hotel staff is very upset with Anna, and they come into the room and they're basically yelling at her to pay up. She wasn't speaking. And at this time, Jesse's there, and so is Rachel. Casey has already left, and basically Anna goes mute. She becomes detached. She's not speaking, and ultimately, that calm response is incredibly alarming, and she wasn't registering the risk of what she was doing, and she kept looking around at the group saying, like, why is everybody being so dramatic? Like, relax, like, you'll be paid, just chill. It's like, it doesn't really work that way, honey. Like, if you owe them tens of thousands of dollars, upwards of $60,000 for your time at this hotel, then you kind of have to put a card down. It's really not rocket science. So, of course, she's saying, I'll wire you the money, call my bank, yada, yada, her usual lines. She's saying, oh, I can't get in contact with my German bankers. My bankers in New York can't get in contact with the people in Germany. Like, all of this bullshit, of course, the usual kind of song and dance with Anna. But ultimately, they said they're not leaving the riad until someone puts a card down. So Rachel ultimately ends up offering her personal credit card to use for the hold, with the understanding that nothing would be charged on this card and the card would be given back to her without any expenses put on it, and Anna would be paying. You see where I'm going here. So the group ends up going to a trip to the YSL Gardens, which is an incredibly exclusive garden outside of Marrakesh. Anna actually ended up wearing one of Rachel's dresses without asking. And to be quite honest with you, that's possibly one of Anna Delvey's worst crimes, because going on vacation, you know exactly what you're bringing, and dresses are kind of statement pieces for a vacation wardrobe. You know what dresses you have. So if someone just wears one of your dresses without permission, then that's worse than all of her other scams, in my opinion. Like, I would not really, I would not be able to handle that as her friend. So at this point, they go to these YSL gardens. They take a tour, and the tour is over $1,000 a person. At this point, it's $3,000 for 3 people. And surprise, surprise, Anna's cards aren't working. Rachel only has her debit card with her because her regular credit card is on file at the hotel. So the people at the gardens basically take them in a town car, drive them back to the hotel to ultimately grab Rachel's card that she put on file at the hotel to then use to pay the YSL Gardens. The problem was La Mamunia, the hotel, wouldn't relinquish control of Rachel's card until they were officially leaving the riad, given their history with them not paying. So Rachel comes up with this brilliant idea to basically put her work Vanity Fair Amex card down at the hotel because they weren't going to charge her, right? So this was just a hold. And she would take her personal credit card and bring it to the museum to pay the balance that they would actually charge her, whatever $3,000 it was, so that, again, Anna could pay her back for those $3,000 worth of tickets eventually. Again, we all see how this is working. This poor girl is just getting the runaround, and Anna's not able to pay for a fucking thing on this trip. So now Rachel's work card is involved, and that's where things start getting extra ugly and messy and, quite frankly, just foolish. So the following day, Rachel actually planned to leave a little bit earlier than the rest of the group to meet some coworkers in France before they had some shoot out in France. So she honestly wanted to pull an Irish exit and leave before Anna woke up, but Anna did wake up, and Rachel basically just told her, like, I need distance from you, and it was really awkward, and there was a lot of tension, and she basically leaves Anna and Jesse to get home by themselves. And as we know, Anna didn't book the flights there, so God knows she didn't book the flights back for them. Again, really inappropriate considering Jesse is technically an employee of yours who is here for this shoot, so it's not really his place to then start booking his own flights. And again, naturally, her cards aren't working and she's not able to get tickets. They're kicked out of La Mamunia, so now they have to stay somewhere else. And naturally, Jesse's not only pissed about the whole situation, but he's also a little upset with Rachel for leaving him in this entire weird, bizarre situation. So Rachel heads over to France, and à bientôt. See you guys later. Don't care. Bye. And Jesse and Anna end up going to another high-end hotel in Morocco. So they end up at Richard Branson's hotel, which is called Casbah Tamado, which is another just beautiful high-end hotel. And they end up staying there for a few nights, but no shock again, Anna cannot pay. And she's jerking around poor Jesse about this flight that she's going to book. But again, we know the situation here. She's not booking a fucking flight. She physically cannot book it. So ultimately, she's getting yelled at the front desk of the hotel, of the new hotel, and she ends up calling Casey, who's back in New York, who's kind of the only person she really has. She knows she's already fucked over Rachel, so she's got to start with Casey. Well, Anna calls Casey, and she's screaming, crying, super upset, and she's telling Casey that she could possibly be arrested for not paying or putting a card down for this new hotel. So, of course, Casey has a heart, so she gives her credit card number. It does fail to go through, which is weird. So Casey ends up calling her bank to try to remedy this. Then, when that fails to go through yet again, she goes the extra mile and Casey calls her own friend and asks to get her card information to pay for this other hotel. And that also failed to work. So at that point, the hotel did concede that the problem just might be on their end. And ultimately, I guess that night it died down, and possibly, again, it's the information's a little murky here because, who's really telling the truth at this point? So Anna gets back on the phone with Casey, is thanking her for trying to, help with the situation at the hotel, and then ultimately says, I need you to also help me book a ticket back to New York. And naturally, Anna asks for one last favor, and that is if she can get a flight back in first class. Obviously, Casey's like, bitch, you're sitting in fucking steerage. You're not sitting in first class. Let's be real. So ultimately, Jesse ends up finding his own ticket and books his own ticket back and is like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And allegedly, Anna also stiffed the bill for the 5-star resort for over $20,000, law enforcement sources have said. So yikes. So this Morocco trip was really the eye-opening moment where everybody realized what we've been told is not true. And fast forward a couple days later, and Rachel's eating, a bully base in the south of France with her coworkers, and she receives an email from La Mamounia. The email has the hotel folio that shows the full the full $60,000 hotel bill was put on her corporate card, when it was always the intention that that card was just for the hold and no charges would be placed on that card. So Anna, of course, quickly follows up with her and says, I'll wire you the 70K USD. Like, no big deal. You'll get the money. Chill, bitch. Like, whatever. And, it doesn't really work like that, Anna. And at this point in Rachel's life, she's not even making $70,000. So she's all confused and deeply upset about what's going on. And again, this is her work card. And honestly, like, at a certain point, you have to understand, like, these are all consenting adults who do need to take action, to take responsibility for your actions. Like, I know everybody thought, like, this rich girl was going to be paying for you, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you should never expect to receive all of these fine, fabulous things in life without it possibly costing you something. And again, I know, like, oh, she's the rich friend, maybe the rich girl will pay for it, but it's not always on the rich friend to always pick up every tab. And I don't know, like, there's this term in economics that, like, always comes into my head when I think of situations like this. And it's basically this phrase called, there's no such thing as a free lunch, which means that everything in life has a cost, even if it's not obvious. And it can also imply that, like, when something is for free, there are often strings attached or expectations of a return favor. So in this case, Anna was kind of like, hey, honey, I've given you a lot of free shit these days, but you know what? You need to return the favor now and help me because all my cards aren't working for X, Y, and Z reason. No, like, it doesn't work like that, honey. And I will say, in Rachel's book, she was incredibly vague about her leaving Morocco and the corporate card situation. And I find it very odd, considering that the Morocco trip was literally the inciting incident of the book that will lead to months of headache and agony for her. And so I just found that lack of details in that moment, when that's kind of the moment that me as a reader would want every single nitty-gritty detail. But, why wouldn't you go hard on her? And maybe I'm, part psycho with, like, the Italian and Irish blood running through me, but I would have tore this stupid bitch up. Like, I would have fucked this bitch over. And to be quite honest with you, if Anna Delvey knew what she was doing, she would sell and use all of the footage that was captured on that Morocco trip and make a proper movie. Lean into the chaos, because you kind of have nothing else to lose. And to be honest with you, let's look at the Queen of Versailles film, the Jackie Siegel film, as a perfect example of what this story could be. Jackie didn't know that she was going to become a lightning rod in pop culture because of her truthful nature about the realities of the 2008 financial crisis, ruining their 95,000 square foot mansion that they were building, that probably is still just like decrepit ruins somewhere in the middle of Florida. But God knows, people liked watching her in that moment, and it didn't matter that she wasn't this rich, fancy woman that she had been portraying herself to be at the beginning of the documentary when they started filming. God knows Anna was probably a she-devil throughout that whole trip, and they were probably filming her in very compromising moments that made her not look like the Anna Delvey that she wants people to see. But us rubbernecking assholes really would love to see it. So Anna and Jesse, if you're out there listening, just release the footage, make it into a YouTube short. I don't care, but that's what I want to see. So of course we need to talk about the post-Morocco fallout, because this is when shit gets ugly and everything goes downhill. So everybody's back in New York, everybody's hanging out. Rachel gets the runaround from Anna for months about getting this Morocco payment. It's not happening. The money's held up in Germany with her bankers. The wires aren't working. Here's a confirmation number for a wire that doesn't exist. She supposedly needed to pay US taxes, so all of her accounts were frozen by the IRS. A million different excuses. It's not happening. Rachel's not getting her money, and she's starting to get worried because, again, this is not her corporate work card. As any corporate girly knows, you need to have that card reconciled every month or so, or else it's going to start getting flagged to finance. Rachel begins emailing with one of Anna's financial advisors, Bettina. As we know, as we know from part one, Peter, her original family financial person, passed away. He was not real, he was imaginary, but he did die. And surprise, surprise, Bettina was also an alias for Anna that she was creating for herself to help lie to friends and business associates. So the money's not coming, Rachel. This back and forth between the two of them went for 6 months. And honestly, like, Rachel, you need to grow a pair of balls and curse this bitch out and see what the fuck is up. Like, she was being so nice, and maybe she was just portraying herself like that in her book, but I would have fucking knocked on that door, whatever hotel room she's staying in, and said, like, what's going on? You're not rich. Tell me the fucking truth. Like, shake this bitch up. Like, nothing. And there were so many moments where Anna could have had a moment of being honest and to be sincere with her friends, but she chose not to. And there would be even moments where Anna would try to placate Rachel, who was obviously getting like more and more upset about all of this. And Anna would say, "Is there anything I can do to help with this matter?" It's like, yeah, you could pay. Like, you could just pay. It's really that easy. And I've honestly worked with a woman who's kind of like this shicey bitch, and it was the same. And it was the same runaround. And she would lie, and she would send confirmations and rescind the money and do all this shady shit. And I'd be like, bitch, you're a fucking idiot. And honestly, I hope that bitch's business fails. I check constantly this woman's Instagram to wait till that fucking business crumbles because she's a piece of shit woman. Anyways, moving on. Honestly, there's probably a good chance she has hung out with Anna Delvey in the past, pre any of this blowing up. Because they're both star fucking losers who think they're better than they really are. So Rachel has over $60,000 of unpaid credit card bills, and she ends up having her aunt give her a loan basically to pay back the amount that she's owed to Amex through work so that she doesn't lose her job. Anna does ultimately end up sending Rachel a whopping $5,000 via PayPal. And she was like, oh, that'll be good for now, right? Which, like, no, not really. Anna basically keeps telling Rachel the delays are a very big deal, and it's been over 6 months. And the two of them were kind of still chummy and girls. And at the time, Rachel wasn't being firm with Anna that, like, she literally needed this money or, like, her life is going to crumble and all of the negative things that kind of come with this. So the two of them were still kind of being girlies, and Anna starts talking about another trip. She wants to go to Palm Springs. They want to rent a vintage Porsche, go to the Parker Palm Springs, which I'm dying to go to. I was invited to a wedding there, but sadly didn't have a chance to go. Depressing. But, they're still kind of wanting to plan this big trip, and now Rachel's like, well, bitch, how are you going to plan a new trip when you haven't even paid for the old trip? Like, what's going on? What is going on? So at this point, Rachel is starting to reach out to other people who she knows through Anna, and she ends up reaching out to one of their mutual friends, Tommy, who she actually met through Anna the night that they originally had met. He does mention that he has lent her money, and he never received anything back. He said he also was German like Anna, and he said that she receives a $30,000 a month stipend, and she's bound to get $10 million on her 26th birthday, but naturally that didn't happen. So this is when shit starts getting a little dark for Anna, because at this point they come back from Morocco, and this is when she's staying at the Beekman, and this is when she's staying at the W Hotel, scamming them out of paying for her hotel rooms. She stayed at the Beekman for over 20 days. And so around July 5th, Anna was effectively homeless, wandering the streets in some Alexander Wang athleisure. She ends up calling Casey, her trainer slash friend, and basically is like, I need to come upstairs. I need to come upstairs. And she's like, no, I'm on a date. You can't. And then Anna begins to threaten that she has been having suicidal ideations to both Casey and Rachel. And both women, of course, have total sympathy towards her. Casey ends up letting her stay the night, and after lending Anna a clean dress, she sends her on her way with this kind of motivational speech. And then when Anna leaves, Casey has immediately recognized that Anna has left her laptop behind, and like Casey was not having it, so she leaves down with the front desk and texted Anna that she could pick it up from the front desk later. Like, that is a classic bitch move. Anna Delvey, we have all done it before. Like, you leave a necklace at a guy's house and you're like, he's got to invite me back, right? Like, I left my necklace here. Like, he's gonna have to call me back, right? Duh. No, honey, he doesn't. The necklace is gone and he doesn't like you. So basically, the next night, the doorman refused to allow Anna to go upstairs. She was calling and calling and calling and calling, and Casey was just holding firm. You are not coming up. You are not coming up. You are not coming up. And she ended up sleeping in the lobby of her apartment. She ended up leaving the lobby a little bit after midnight because she realized that Casey was not going to be allowing her to stay the night. So at this point, she was sleeping on the subways. Hotel people were not letting her in. She literally had no belongings. It's all kind of crumbling around her. At a certain point, she does reach out to Rachel and calls her crying and asks if she can come over. Rachel immediately hung up on her, but Anna ended up going to her house anyways. She was crying and screaming and, being incredibly upset and basically saying like she owes everybody money. She doesn't want to tell her parents what's going on because they would make her get a real job. what a tragic situation. You'd have to work. That'd be terrible. So she ends up sleeping on Rachel's couch, but again, refuses to answer any of Rachel's questions, refuses to be honest, refuses to be open. And again, she's threatening that she is going to kill herself. So Rachel and Casey, are trying the best they can to just kind of deal with the reality at hand. And again, like, Anna's in a tricky place because this kind of falls into like the sunk cost fallacy. She's like, I've already put so much effort into this strategy of telling people who I am, and everybody around me is invested. But like, it's clear that like if I just own up to my bullshit now, it would actually be more beneficial. But she's blinded by her own greed and her own ego that she can't realize that, this is not a healthy way forward in your future. So now we come to the friend intervention. So it's Casey, Rachel, and then their other mutual friend, Beth. And they meet at the Frying Pan on 26th and West Side Highway. TBH, a great spot. Anna's actually wearing the same dress that Casey gave her way back when. So it's showing you that Anna really doesn't have anything. It's so sad. Basically, the whole gang is trying to get answers like, what have you done? Why are you doing this? Who are you? Are you ever planning to pay anybody back? Like, what is going on, Anna? Please, like, be honest with us. And of course, she is not being honest. And the women were, getting increasingly angry. They're all crying. They're getting upset. And Anna, still has these delusions of grandeur where she's telling them, well, I'll have enough money to pay everybody back the moment that the lease is signed for 281 Park Avenue and the club begins. And, Casey kind of tells her, like, honey, are you fucking kidding? The building's been rented. Like, you know this, I know this. Like, it's done, honey. Like, it's done. And so at this point, they all leave. Again, no closure, nothing. And after the intervention, Beth, the third mutual friend, actually allows Anna to stay at her house that night because, again, Anna has nowhere to stay. And so at this point, Rachel's in over $60,000 in debt from this trip. So she does reach out to law enforcement to report this. And that's kind of when the ball really starts rolling. Again, at this point in time, the articles about her stiffing the hotel bills have been in the Post. And the friends also mentioned that during the Friendtervention. And so, things are brewing around her. So it was tricky for Rachel to really get law enforcement to care about this because, of course, her situation ended up happening in Morocco, which obviously is not New York jurisdiction. So long story short, I'm not going to get into too many of the nitty gritty details because it's like not the fun part. I'm like, the fun part is where she is currently, which is like absolutely bonkers and weird. So the feds are on the case. They begin to track down Anna, who they can't really seem to pin down, but with the help of Rachel, who's kind of their little mole at this point, who's still fostering a relationship with Anna. They find out she is in Malibu, California, planning to go to Passages Malibu to, get help, which is rich considering that's one of the most prestigious high-end rehabs in the country. So of course Anna's like, that's where I'm probably going to get my help. And of course, she's still scamming and, doing shady things behind the scenes. She actually had deposited 2 bad checks into an account at Signature Bank that netted about $8,000, which was how she was able to fly to California, as well as get onboarded and put a deposit down for her stay at Passages Malibu. So Anna was ultimately arrested outside of Passages Malibu. Like, how embarrassing to get arrested outside of your rehab. But she was ultimately arrested, brought back to New York, and had to handle her, future legal proceedings. So she ends up hiring Todd Spodek as her criminal attorney. Spodek himself has a questionable, grouping of clients. His usual everyday clients include grifters, dog murderers, femme fatales, rapists, cyber criminals, and miscreants. So Anna fit right in perfectly. Considering her past situation, Todd actually had her sign a lien on all of her assets to ensure he got paid, which is hilarious because she literally doesn't have a single asset. And naturally, he never got paid. And, he does seem like he was just yet another dummy who fell for her charming bullshit. This bitch needs to teach a masterclass on how to scam because it's fucking impressive. So let's break down the convictions, acquittals, and her ultimate sentence. So Anna Sorokin was convicted on the following charges in the New York State Supreme Court: second-degree grand larceny for stealing $275,000 in total through various schemes. This included failing to pay hotel bills, as well as attempting to secure loans through false information. Her second conviction was attempted grand larceny for trying to obtain a quick $22 million loan from City National Bank and Fortress Investment Group using forged financial documents. And her third conviction was theft of services for skipping out on tens of thousands of unpaid bills at luxury hotels and restaurants, including the 11 Howard Hotel and the Beekman. She ultimately was found not guilty on 2 counts. One account for attempted grand larceny, which was related to an alleged attempt to defraud a friend of $62,000 during a Morocco trip. Sorry, Rachel. Kind of sucks, but whatever. And then she was also acquitted of 1 count of grand larceny, which was related to that $35,000 unpaid private jet bill for Blade for her to go to, Warren Buffett's summit, which, still, how the fuck she got there? Who the fuck knows? So she was ultimately sentenced to 4 to 12 years in state prison. She was fined $24,000 and also ordered to pay restitution of about $199,000. So all in all, Anna was in various prison systems for a little shy of 4 years. And I should add at this point, given the media attention to this story, Rachel was forgiven by Amex for the $62,000 in debt that she was put in. So even though Anna didn't get charged for grand larceny attempt, she still received some kind of justice by American Express, doing her a solid. Thanks, Amex. So, I guess everyone did get to go on a free trip. Nice. I guess she, got traumatized and probably got fired and, all the other shitty things that happened. But, between getting, Amex to forgive your debt and then also getting all that sweet, sweet book deal money that we talked about in part 1, you know what? Maybe she ended up on top. Maybe. Probably not. Idiots like me are still talking about her, so she definitely didn't. So, of course, Anna was in prison, and she said, quote, "This place is actually not that bad. People seem to think it's horrible, but I think it's kind of this sociological experiment." Yeah, of course, prison's not bad for you, Anna, because you were sleeping on subway cars, have no friends, have no possessions, have nothing. You get a bed, you get 3 meals a day, you probably have heat and cooling, and you made a little group of girlfriends. This is great. This is perfect for you. She even mentions that, she had a prison assistant who was helping her take calls from the media and also handle her schedule. I love that. And as I mentioned, Anna also possibly swam in the lady pond. In part 1, we talked about how she kind of swings both ways. And Anna also had what she called some sort of girlfriend on Rikers Island. And, we don't exactly know the nature of their relationship, but I feel like girls in Rikers, really give good head. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't have any information about that, but if I was in Rikers, I probably would also have a prison girlfriend because you know what? Everyone has needs. We all have needs. So, you know what? I'm with you, Anna. I go both ways if I'm in prison as well. So, Anna was in prison from April 2019 and was released on February 11th, 2021. However, approximately 6 weeks after Anna was released from prison, Anna was detained by ICE for overstaying her visa. So, she ended up being in ICE custody for another 17 months. And during her time in ICE, that's actually when she did her interview on Call Her Daddy, which Alex Cooper mentioned was one of the hardest challenges in her career. And I love how she's like, yeah, I used to give phenomenal dick sucking tips. And now I'm interviewing scammers in an ICE detention facility. Don't give up on your dreams, ladies. You have no idea where, a podcast can take you. And so in January of 2021, she actually also joined a lawsuit with other prisoners against ICE, claiming that she contracted COVID-19 after being refused a booster shot. I don't think it went anywhere, but whatever. So fast forward to October 2022, and an immigration judge set her bail to $10,000 and allowed her release under very strict conditions. She needed 24-hour home confinement at a specified Manhattan address, monitor via electric monitoring via an ankle monitor, so chic. And she was prohibited to be on any form of social media for the foreseeable future. So fast forward a little bit further, and by September 2024, the house arrest terms were loosened and she was permitted to travel within a 70-mile radius of her home, return to social media, and even received a social security number. So wow. I mean, little Miss Delvey, she got herself into a little pickle. She just spent a lot of time in prison. Again, she said, like, not that bad. And, the problem with, being in prison is, she even mentioned at one point that she met another, kind of white collar criminal who was stealing people's identity. And she was like, I didn't realize it was so easy to steal people's identity. And so, God knows, in 6 years, I'm going to be doing another, a retrospective on Anna Delvey where we talk about, her new scam of, stealing people's identity and visas and passport information. But of course, Anna has been very busy. She's out and about lately. And unfortunately, one thing that did make me sad that she said on the Call Her Daddy podcast was that she feels like nobody knows anything about her, and that her friends in her life are not real friends. And I want to say yeah, honey, because you just lie consistently. You're just a liar. And one thing about Anna was that she never has said, I'm not this heiress. She's never admitted to being anything other than, a woman who just wanted to start a foundation with multiple restaurants and a German bakery. That's all she was. She didn't ever really say, you know what, this is all a facade. I'm a girl from Russia who moved to Germany and I bullshitted my way through life. She's never said that. And so it's really interesting to see, how steadfast she is with this lie. So much has come from Anna's whole scam. Of course, Inventing Anna, the show on Netflix by Shonda Rhimes, where actress Julia Gardner plays her. And, that show was a smashing success on Netflix. And Rachel actually ended up trying to sue Netflix for defamation because she said that Netflix made a deliberate decision to use her real name, but also they portrayed her as greedy, snobbish, disloyal, dishonest, cowardly, manipulative, and an opportunistic person. And, not adjusting her name in the show could also hinder future job opportunities. The creation of Inventing Anna as a show is kind of in a moral gray area because there is something called the Son of Sam laws, which is also known as the notoriety for profit law, which is a law that was designed to keep criminals from profiting off of their crimes. For instance, selling their juicy, scammy stories to publishers or to media companies. And so these types of laws are actually used by the state to make sure that the money that they're getting is immediately seized to pay back the various victims. So in Anna's case, she got $320,000 from Netflix for the rights to her life story. But as we mentioned, she had a couple of outstanding fees that she needed to pay. So $199,000 went to her restitution to the banks, and $24,000 went to the various state fines that she needed to pay. So, she didn't net out with too much money after taxes and whatnot. So Anna now is living in New York City, renting a one-bedroom in the East Village for $4,250 a month. And I gotta ask, who was her guarantor? Because it's incredibly hard to get an apartment in Manhattan in general, but who signed on to say, I think she's good for the rent? Let's be real. And she's not hanging out with any of the girlies of her past. I'm sorry, Casey, Rachel, Neff, they want nothing to do with her. No surprise there. And so she's been hanging out with dirty girls in New York City. If you know, you know. Kelly Catrone and her have randomly become really good friends. And supposedly Anna was at one point living at Kelly's house upstate. They were working on some kind of production that was kind of a Simple Life, Green Acres type show, but of course that went nowhere. And Kelly said she gets to be the good guy when she hangs out with Anna, which seems like an incredibly healthy mindset for a friendship. She's also been spotted hanging out with Leah McSweeney, Julia Fox, Kat Marnell. I'm sorry, these are just dirty New York City girls. If you know, you know. I don't need to go into those people, but yuck. She also was linked with Georgia from Next Gen NYC. If you know me, you know I'm obsessed with Georgia. And Georgia actually threw the club house arrest party in January of 2023 when Anna ended up holding a private party in her apartment while she was on house arrest. All guests had to sign NDAs, and all donations were made to a pro bono legal service called Access Justice Brooklyn. Wow, they are doing so good. Anna actually ended up selling some of her artwork that she created in prison and after prison. She had a solo art show in New York City titled Allegedly and had been selling pieces through social media, raking in over $300,000. She said that the prints sold to over 40 countries worldwide and that the prints were ranging anywhere from $17,000 to $25,000. And Saturday Night star Chloe Fineman actually purchased one of her photos, and she began direct messaging with Delvey, and actually Delvey offered to give her some art for Chloe had actually been DMing with Anna, and Anna ultimately ended up giving her a piece of art for free. And honestly, she was also a spoof on SNL where Chloe herself played her, classically calling all of her coworkers basic and broke ass bitches. And there's a great moment in the skit where she's trying to use her Metro card as a credit card for like various different locations trying to buy shit. And it's just so funny. And God knows we wouldn't be able to catch Anna Delvey on a subway. I guess unless she's sleeping on it. But that like makes me sad. I don't know. It makes me sad when I think about like this girl just being homeless. It's just, or unhoused, whatever we say now. But regardless, Anna said she was going to be coming out with 2 memoirs, one about her exploits in New York, and then she was also planning a second one about her time at Rikers. Of course, neither book exists, and I'm not surprised because writing a book takes work, and we know Anna's not working, so I'll keep waiting for that. We also talked about it a little bit on part 1 that Rachel's book, My Friend Anna, The True Story of a Fake Heiress, was actually optioned for an HBO series that Lena Dunham would have been behind, but ultimately that also fell to the cutting room floor. Nothing came from it. As I mentioned in part 1, the Queen Anna Delvey ended up on Dancing with the Stars in season 33. She did have to get ICE approval to travel out of state, but they did approve it since this was work. I've never seen anything more elegant than a scam artist with her glitter ankle monitor premiering the Cha-Cha. It was poetic, it was sultry, it was just stiff and terrible. The poor girl did get eliminated first, which is sad, but I'm really happy for her for getting the opportunity in general. She danced to Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter, so I love that for her. And yeah, the dance career didn't go too far, but it seems like with Anna, none of these careers go too far. It's like a big idea, and then again, follow through is low. Also, like, isn't Dancing with the Stars like a show that people need to vote for? So I don't really think people are going to vote for you. Sorry. There were NFTs, of course. Anna has to be involved with NFTs that were prints that Delvey as an artist created. The 3 prints minted were different stylized versions of moments in Delvey's own life. They were selling for about $90 each. And again, NFTs are a non-fungible token, which is like this digital asset that represents ownership of a specific item, like digital art or collectible. It's absolute fucking bullshit. That's what it really is. She also tried to have a dinner club reality show, and they actually were linked with a legit production company, and it was going to be called Delvey's Dinner Club. It was going to be an unscripted show produced by a company called Butternut that was going to have Sorokin discussing with her esteemed guests topics about her criminal past, her reputation as a con artist, her attempts at image rehab, and her isolation due to house arrest. Again, nothing ever happened to it. No surprise there. She also was a part of a possible new platform for creators called Passes that was going to be a startup that allows creators to tap into their fan base and theoretically monetize content like never before. It's going to be a kind of like OnlyFans, but like less sexy and porny. And last but not least, we have to talk about what Anna's been up to lately, which is really just going to parties and doing photo shoots that no one cares about. But there was a big drama lately about Anna Delvey in a photo shoot with rabbits. So the most recent saga with Anna is a photo shoot with live animals. You didn't think we were going to take this turn. But Anna actually ended up posted photos of a recent photo shoot in New York where she posted with a lot of live rabbits on leashes. They looked like little props. It was weird. So soon after those photos were released, it came out that those rabbits were later found abandoned in Prospect Park. And it seems like they used them as props and then completely abandoned them, which is absolutely bizarre and weird. And a 19-year-old assistant on the shoot admitted in a now deleted post that he had abandoned the rabbits in the park. And he said he panicked when the responsibility of returning them fell onto him. Like, what the fuck is happening? Like, where'd you get these rabbits? Bring them back to where you fucking got them, bro. But of course, Anna claims she was not involved in obtaining the animals, transporting them, or returning them. She says she doesn't know they would be abandoned and that the assistant completely misled her. So, I mean, that's the latest of what's going on with Anna. She's abandoning bunnies in Prospect Park, and you got to assume there's probably some kind of half-baked scheme going on. But the girl has a rent of $4,000+ a month. So how is she living? How is she making money? We will never know. Again, in 6 years, we'll probably have another crop of these episodes where we're talking about her next fraud. But we're just gonna have to wait and see. But ultimately, Anna got what she ultimately wanted, which was to be famous. Let's be real. But the sad thing is that fame doesn't last forever, and she doesn't really seem to have any tangible skills. So she'll likely keep finding a way to keep scamming people in the future. And you know what? One thing I was thinking is that 281 Park Avenue is still available. The space is open still. They're waiting for a buyer, so maybe she can open up ADF. Maybe you go back to the investors and see what they'll be willing to give you at this point in your life. But you know what? The best villains are the ones that you can't help liking despite their bad deeds. And unfortunately, I love this queen. She's delusional, has terrible fashion, unwilling to admit a smidge of wrongdoing. It's kind of chic. And that lack of remorse tells me this is obviously a larger problem, and she probably has some kind of serious mental illness, thinking that this is, a healthy way to live her life. Anna had the ability to pretend she was this German heiress while she was scamming her way throughout New York's social scene. She was defrauding hotels, tricking friends into paying for these trips, attempting to secure millions of dollars worth of loans for a fake foundation, lying to investor and acquaintances. Her victims were both personal and businesses, which made people feel like she was really preying on these people who trusted her. Again, she lacked remorse. She didn't show an ounce of remorse. And she often kind of framed herself as this misunderstood woman, and even has said she was a performance artist rather than a criminal. And you know what? Like, she was very unapologetic and arrogant. And I think that's one of the reasons why people can't trust her in the future. No surprise there. And she very much tapped into, how elitist New York is. People care more about the luxury and the fabulous lifestyle that you can live over being honest about who you are. And, again, no surprise here, the New Yorkers and the New York elite can be greedy and shallow, but she embodied that toxicity and exploited it. And you could look at it also, like we were saying, these Son of Sam laws. Like, she had kind of been rewarded with fame for this scamming. And, the real victims are Rachel and Casey and Nanef and the investors who wasted their time and money, and the ordinary people who, are just the shrapnel in her bullshit. And you know what? It seems like she's still able to somehow monetize these crimes. She's still playing this character of this Anna Delvey person instead of taking any accountability. And to be honest with you, that's why, she's an iconic girl boss. But no, I had a lot of fun researching this, and it's really fascinating to see the psyche behind somebody like this, and to see how far people will go to scam and to have this perception of who they are, when that's just not the case. So thank you so much for listening to part 2 of I Know You Didn't Ask's recap of Anna Delvey. I'm so obsessed with her, you guys. I'm leaning into, I believe, Hilaria Baldwin as my next victim, and I'm so excited to get into that. I have to get into books. I have so much work to do, and I'm so excited. As I mentioned, I got a job, people, and it's a part-time job, which means that I can focus on this here show even more. I'm so excited. I'm so jazzed. I am just feeling really positive about all of this. And if you like the show, please subscribe, leave 5 stars, go to YouTube at I Know You Didn't Ask Pod to listen and see me speak and do all these silly shows. Follow me on TikTok and on Instagram at Megan the Podcaster, and you can find cute little social clips of me there. And just thank you so much. This is so exciting. This took so long to do. It literally was, I'm not kidding, like over 50 hours of work, and will take even more for me to edit and do all this other crap. And so I'm so grateful for the people who listen. And tell a friend if you want to subject your friend to listening to this nonsense. I know it's a little ridiculous, but you know what? I can't help who I am, and I can't help my hobbies. I'm sorry. So thank you and have a great rest of your week. Bye. New episodes of the I Know You Didn't Ask podcast are out every Monday and Friday, available wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube.